Hi, good morning. I've been asked by one of my subscribers if I could tell him a little bit about storing oil pastels. So that's what we're going to have a look at today. Hi, good morning. John here for a Tuesday morning. Right, so I've been asked about storing oil pastels. Now, like everything in art, this is all down to personal preference and choice. And what I do isn't going to fit everybody, I know that, but this is just what I do. I'll give you some idea and some of the pitfalls probably, and some of the advantages. So we'll have a look at that now. Wherever possible, I try to keep my oil pastels in their original boxes. I have a reason for this. Firstly, the boxes are not too bad anyway, generally, unless you get the cheaper end. When you get up to the more expensive end, the boxes become very good, and they're definitely worth keeping, and they have all the inner sponge and everything to keep everything in pristine condition, or as much as pristine as you can. So I see no need, personally, to have to change boxes. For me, it keeps everything in order, it keeps everything in one place. And another part of that reason is that at the moment I'm working through all the oil pastels that I've got, which is many, and I'm trying to keep them together and only use that oil pastel for that picture, so I'm not mixing them up. That gives me more of an idea of what they can and can't do. On the odd occasion I do mix them, but until the time comes when I've used them all, which will be probably many years from now, I'm trying not to mix them as much as I can. Wherever I can, I leave the label on. I see no point in taking the labels off and making life hard for yourself. I mean, basically what you'll end up with is just sticky hands. You'll end up with dirty oil pastels. So wherever I can, I keep the label on. It doesn't mean to say that I won't break parts of oil pastels off to use for minute details if I need to. Wherever I can, I leave that label on. Not only does it keep it all clean, it also gives you all the information you need on that pastel, presuming it has that information on that pastel, and it avoids dirtiness. So as I said, I keep my oil pastels in their boxes. However, some people don't want to do that, and some people don't have full sets, so they have to make alternative arrangements. If I was to do that, I would buy one of these boxes. Right, it's a 2-drawer set. I've got it wrapped up at the moment, so I'm not going to unwrap it, but the drawers pull out, and in these drawers, as you can hopefully see on this picture, are compartments, and they are ideal for oil pastels. And they come, this is a 2-set drawer set, but they do come in 4s and 8s, and I saw one for 10 recently, which I actually wish I had bought. If you haven't got hold of a 2-drawer or 4-drawer set or anything like that, another alternative is a little plastic box like this. Okay, this isn't very big, but it would keep your pastels clean. I would say, personally, use a plastic one where you can, because it's likely to keep your oil pastels a bit cleaner without rubbing on the surface of the inner of the box. Another good thing about this is it has this lid on it, so it's going to stop your pastels just falling out everywhere, and it's also going to keep them relatively airtight, which is another slight problem, but not a massive problem. So wherever you can, try to keep your oil pastels in normal conditions. When I say normal conditions, I mean not extremes of heat or cold. Oil pastels tend to react with extremes a bit like chocolate reacts going in and out of your fridge. When chocolate goes in and out of your fridge, as you know, it causes the sugar to rise to the surface and it makes it look white. In the same sense, oil pastels do exactly the same, but it's not sugar, of course. And they react to the heat and the cold and the extreme temperatures that they're going in and out of, and the oil rises to the surface. And I'm sure we've all seen some of these oil pastels that have all this white residue on them. That's where the oil has risen to the surface. It's not a problem. It's just, firstly, it's unsightly, and it's just annoying, because if it becomes too white, you can't always see your pictures. But that can just easily be rubbed off, and your oil pastels can be used as normal. But why cause that problem in the first place? Just avoid it wherever you can. So keep them in as normal conditions as you can. Another thing to look at is keeping them in the open air. I have seen artists, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they do have these very large trays where they separate all their oil pastels, no matter what brand, into colour sections. And to some extent that's a good idea, but not for me. But I do wonder whether these guys actually cover that at the end of the day. It doesn't look as if they do, but they may well do. So what I'm saying is you really do need to cover the pastels. If you keep them in the open air, this can cause some slight, and I mean slight, curing of the outer edge of the pastel. Now the ones I've seen that on mainly, and it's probably because of their age, is the Pastel Square Professional Pastels. I have had 3 sets of those. I've got a brand new set, which is perfect, ideal. I then have a slightly older set, which is these here, and they do have a slightly harder texture on the outside. However, they're not too bad either. But previous to that, and I think these are good because they keep them in boxes, but like I say, previous to that, I had some that came from a shop that had closed down and they were open stock. And the problem I had when I received them is that they were quite hard on the outer edges. Now, overall, in the great scheme of things, this isn't too much of a problem because they still work okay. But they do get this harder coating texture on them. In the same way, I mean, to me it makes sense, I hope it does to you, but in the same way, if you are doing an oil pastel painting and you know you're going along and you leave it for a week before you go back to it, you then find that the top surface has cured slightly. It's cured enough for you to actually be able to put fresher oil pastel on than what you would have done the week previous when it wasn't slightly cured. So that's actually another bonus tip to oil pastel painting. Leave it a week and you'll be able to get the oil pastel on a bit better. If you're looking for, say, highlights or something like that. So keeping them in the open air is a slight problem. All these things are very slight. But avoid it wherever you can. Why would you want to cause a problem to yourselves? Now, when you're like me, you're a very messy worker. And I do, on occasions, leave my oil pastels out in the open air. And it's because I just take them out, use them, shove them on the side until the next time I want to use that colour. But that's a bit naughty, really. Wherever I can, I need to be putting them back. But if you put them back at the end of the day, you're not going to really cause yourself any problems. But what you could do is you could just cover them over if you have them all strewn about your desk like I do generally. So just be aware of that. Keep them enclosed in a container wherever you can. So keep your oil pastels away from extreme heat and extreme cold, like I've said, or they could end up like these. Aren't they wonderful? Now, I received them like that, so whoever had stored these had almost definitely stored them perhaps against a heater or something like that, because obviously your oil pastels melt at quite a high temperature. You can see on some of these where that white oil has come out, but these have gone way beyond that. They've actually gone to the point where they have actually melted. Now, can you use them? I've done a video on this already. Yes, you can use them. But what you need to be aware of is that they're going to be a lot softer now, which to some degree may not be a problem, but they're going to be very crumbly. Okay, so, but you can use them, just, I use them for demos. Just be very careful what you use them for, and obviously keep them away from heat. It looks to me like this end is okay, but that end might have been perhaps put on top of a heater or something like that. Now I personally have a problem that I have so many art materials I have to take to art groups and what have you, that I actually come home and put them all in my living room or in my conservatory. My conservatory can get very hot, so I have to be aware that within a day or two I've have to take them oil pastels out. So also in hot weather or in hot storage conditions, they can be too soft to use. They can become too soft to use. Now, to some degree, depending on what you're doing on the picture, that's not a problem. On the other hand, if you are storing them in too colder conditions, they can become too hard to use. Now, ones like the Senneliers, in too hot conditions, they're going to just melt. But in too colder conditions, they can become okay to use. There are trade-offs here. You know, the soft ones in colder weather can become very usable and not too soft, but in hot weather melt. But the harder ones become too hard to use in colder weather. So it's a bit of a trade-off, but extremes of heat and cold will cause a problem. The other thing I want to say is clean your oil pastels after use. This is all storage based stuff. Clean your oil pastels after use, because like I said earlier, they can become drier. This also means that if you've got dirtiness on them, that is going to become drier and it's going to become harder to take off. So clean them after use. Personally, I use baby wipes to clean mine because they don't harm the oil pastel and they have a little bit of wetness to them that will take off that residue that you've got from other colours. I wouldn't generally use a kitchen towel because of flakiness and fluffiness that might come onto it, or even a rag I would just keep away from. A kitchen towel would be okay-ish, but baby wipes are perfect and I go through quite a few of them. So look after your oil pastels and store them properly. Shut them away after every use if you can. Clean them after every use if you can. And keep them out of hot and cold areas or extremes of hot and cold areas. And you should have a happy life with your oil pastels. Now I need to practice what I preach. Anyway, I'd like to say, wherever you are, please have a great day, a great week and a great year. And be kind to everyone. Bye for now.